Welcome to the game. I'm Mark Simon,
And I'm Bob Marks.
and we are delighted to be joined today by Joe Cochette, widely considered one of the most successful plaintiffs' attorneys in the country, a man with a burning fire for justice, and a major player in Democratic politics nationally and in California for decades. Joe, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's an honor to be here with all of you.
Well, nobody's ever said that before. Thank you. Joe, your firm just won a major lawsuit against Elon Musk, essentially alleging correctly, as far as the jury is concerned, that he said things and did things to drive down the price of the Twitter stock just before he bought it. Tell us a little bit about that lawsuit and its significance.
Well, it was very interesting because what we usually see and what we're seeing out there more and more in the marketplace in terms of fraud, corporate fraud, is people ballyhooing a certain stock to drive the price up. Are you with me?
Yeah.
In this case, it was alleged that Elon Musk, somebody's personal friend here, drove the price of Twitter down after he signed an agreement to buy it for, I think it was 44 billion. What he wanted to do, of course, as the jury found, was drive the price down to where he could then renegotiate a better price. Many, what people forget is that what was involved in that case were pension funds, business investments, private citizens, but largely pension funds are the people that are investing today. And he drove that price way down. And one day, I think it dropped something like 12% on a day when he said he wasn't going to buy it. We had a couple of it's a class action. So what we did was we brought it on behalf of 2, 3, 4 individuals that represent teachers' pension funds, police pension funds, nurses, firemen, right down the line, if you know what I'm talking about. And the jury, after a 10-day trial, found that Elon was liable for securities fraud. Now, the reason I say that, why that's so important, securities fraud, is because this is probably the first time he's ever been held liable. It's probably one of the few, if only, cases where a case has been brought on the basis of someone driving the price down. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Versus driving the price up. And the jury found unanimously that he was liable for that. And they found, based on the damages awarded for the losses on each day, about $2.5 billion. And with interest going forward, interest pre-verdict, it would be about $3 billion. Now, I don't mean to be so brash, but you know what that is to Elon Musk?
Yeah.
That's a pimple.
Yeah.
That's a pimple. However, now this is very important. Now a jury has found him liable for securities fraud. So what does that mean? The richest man in the world. By the way, when he was asked, "Are you the richest man in the world?" on the stand, he kind of looked up at the roof of the ceiling of the courtroom, kind of shook his head, and he said, "Well, maybe that's what they say," or whatever it was. It was interesting having him on the stand for a whole day. What was more interesting was the little plaintiffs that we put on. And he had, at any given time, no less than 15 lawyers in the courtroom, 9 sitting up at counsel table, and maybe 6 or 7 behind the walkway that breaks where visitors sit. He had security guards, he had press people, he had all his people. Now, back to securities fraud. Now, the fact that he was hit for $2.53 billion, whatever it is, as you know, they say he's worth what, around 950 to $1 trillion?
Yeah.
So you can imagine he could wrote a check for that and just walked away, right? Except for one thing. The case was for securities fraud. That's never been brought against him. Now he's got a big problem because he's been found liable for securities fraud, which means each time now going forward, he's got to report to the SEC that he's been found liable. So the appeal is going to be critical.
Hmm.
He's appealing it to the Ninth Circuit. This is a case uniquely I don't think the Supreme Court will take because it was based on facts, not on law, if you see where I'm going.
Right.
So the whole shot comes down to now the Ninth Circuit. The case is very, very significant because, as I said before, I don't want to repeat myself, one of the few cases ever brought where somebody is trying to get the stock down, not hype it up. And that's
Yeah.
the big difference.
What? Tell us, since you saw him on the stand, and I know your firm had him in depositions. Give us your sense of the man from what you saw.
Well, he's a very interesting guy. He's hyper. Let me give you one example. He came into the court with security guards, the likes of which even you, Mark, have never had. He's a guy that, what's he had? 13 children. How many wives? I'm not sure. He's a very, very bright guy. He's always taking something, and I don't know what the drug is he takes. Perhaps you've read it in the papers. He was very good on the stand, I must say. He tried to present himself as just one of the jury, which, of course, after a couple of questions, that was not possible. He is a brilliant, brilliant guy who I don't have to tell you. He wants to develop new communities on Mars. He comes out of South Africa. You know his background.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting human being.
Let's ask about another lawsuit your firm's involved in, alleging that the internet is addictive.
Very definitely. Let me go back to one thing.
Sure.
On the Musk case. They're moving for a new trial on the basis that I committed error in my closing argument to the jury. It'll be very interesting to see what the Court of Appeals does with that. Now, the next case you were just talking about. Yes, we're taking on people that want to, on social media, take our lives away from our little children. You've seen the numbers on the suicide rates of teenagers. These, I don't have to tell you, these social media cases are wild. They're going to dominate the law over the next 5 years. It's a battle between independent corporate America and what they want to do to our society versus, in this case, we're representing school boards, school districts for children. You've seen what's happened in the last two cases, one in New Mexico, one in LA. Well, you're going to see a lot more of them because from what I hear, not only ourselves, but others are going to be going after Grok. Have you heard of Grok?
Yeah.
Where they can take and undress you and have you making love to an elephant, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It sounds funny. It's not funny because it's happening tragically with kids. The suicide rate is up, about 200% on children 15 to 17 to 18 in the last 2 years. We're living in a new world that no one on this screen here has ever lived in, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
It is beyond the capability of anybody understanding how AI can be used. We have cases coming in tragically every week on senior citizens that have had their retirements and bank accounts stolen from them using AI. All you have to do is talk, what is it now, down to about 45 to 50 seconds on your cell phone, and that's up in the clouds.
Yeah.
They now have your voice. What they can do with photographs, what they can do with AI. I'm representing currently Steve Wozniak in a case that's been going on for two years now. And the biggest issue facing all of America was a statute that was passed back in the 1980s called the Communications Act, Section 230.
Mm-hmm.
That gives all your platforms total immunity from anything that's seen on the platform. That's the biggest battle today, right? Section 230, and it's sweeping America. Why are we perhaps one of the richest areas in the country? And that's because of what I call Silicon Valley and what they're developing. We all know that, we see that. But back to the point I was making, there's a very dark side to AI and social media. And if you've got children, you know about it. I've got friends that will not allow their kids to take their cell phones into their rooms at night. Thank God, schools are now banning cell phones during classes. I'll close with this on the subject. I had a case sent in to me by a Stanford professor that I know quite well. A doctor, he sent in a woman from the Bay Area here, whose daughter, over a cell phone, actually over a laptop, while she was in school, by the way, here on the peninsula, developed a relationship with a very, very nice, very attractive young man, about 17 or 18. She's a local high school student from Arizona. He called her one day and said, Betsy, I'll just make that name up, Betsy, how far do you live from Palo Alto? I live, oh my God, John, I'm right next to Palo Alto. He said, gee, that's great. I'm coming up to see my aunt who's got some medical problems. I want to visit with her. I think I'm staying in a place somewhere in Redwood City. I'll call you when I get in. If you're around Saturday, I'll call you. I'm going to take a cab or an Uber or whatever I want to take to the motel. I'll give you a call. You'll pick me up and we'll go over to my aunt's house. Well, the tragedy is the woman who came in to see me sat in front of me and she's in tears telling this story about her daughter. The daughter went over to the motel where her nice 18-year-old boy that she met over an app was waiting for her. Turned out he was somewhere around 50 years old. He used a burner phone, raped her several times. She today is in a place over in the Walnut Creek area. They're trying to bring her back mentally, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Did they ever catch the guy? Of course not. It was a burner phone. He's gone. What do you do in a situation like that?
Yeah.
And it's happening every single day of the week.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to waste your time with that.
Yeah. Joe, outside of the courtroom, you've been known to dabble a little bit in politics over the years. I'm curious, when you were younger, did you ever think of running for office?
I did. Let me put it this way to you. I was asked a couple of times to run for Attorney General of California. As a matter of fact, the Chronicle endorsed me before I'd even decided to run. And then, to be brutally candid with you, I thought I could do more work here as a lawyer. At about that time, I had just become president of Trial Lawyers for Public Justice back in DC. And I was spending a lot of time commuting back and forth during the early 90s in the wake of the Attorney General run. And I didn't run. Have I ever thought about running for the Assembly, the House, the Senate, and put the Senate aside, the Assembly or the Senate, State Senate? No. I feel I could do more work. I've always felt I could do more work in a law office here. I started my life right after college, going in the Army. I was in Special Forces, foolishly made 12 jumps, and that's why I have metal knees. Then went to law school. And the minute I got out of law school, I was very, very active in litigation. I, in the 80s, got a call from a very dear friend, Mr. Kennedy, when he was a senator, and the brother, and went down and represented the woman in the Selma March that was shot by an informant Ku Klux Klan man. You know what I mean by informant. In those days, the FBI would hire Ku Klux Klan informants to assist them. Well, he wanted to show how tough he was, so he blew a woman's brains out. You remember the case, I'm sure. So those were cases I was taking. I took on, I got a call from a Catholic priest back in the 80s as well, who told me about a place called Subic Bay in the Philippines, where there were about 5,000 children that were fathered by service members coming home from Vietnam. Subic Bay used to be an R&R, rest and rehabilitation spot. Fathered the children. I sued the government. I was, believe it or not, at that time, I was still in the reserves. I had switched to, after jumping out of so many planes, I had switched to the JAG Court, Judge Advocate General. I took on that case. I sued the Department of Defense, now the Department of War, then known as the Department of Defense. I sued them for children in the Subic Bay. You couldn't get a jury. I got a very nice judge in the Court of Claims in Washington, D.C. He found against me. But he was not a bad guy. He called me into his chambers and said, Mr. Carchett, I appreciate what you've done here. Have you ever thought about going over to Congress? He wrote a beautiful opinion. I went over to Congress and I think I got about $1 million or $2 million. Now, back in the 1980s, do you know what that built in the Philippines? It built a school, it built a hospital for all of those kids. So, sometimes you take on cases you can't win. By the way, I lost the case against the FBI for that woman that was killed, because in a case like that, when you sue the government, that's a Federal Tort Claims Act, and you can't get a jury. And once again, I drew a judge up in Michigan who found against me, but we were able to change the law on how, or the regulations, I should say, on how the FBI hired informants in those days, critically the Ku Klux Klan. So those are two cases that really drive me. I lost both of them, drive me to do what I'm doing. I've had, as Mark might tell you, I've had several billion-dollar cases. I've been very fortunate in my life. I grew up on the streets of a little farming community in New York called Brooklyn. So I quickly learned what side of the street you were safe on, if you know what I mean.
Joe, let's shift gears to politics a little bit. Everybody's sort of scratching their heads still over this governor's race. We had a debate this week, and I don't think it pushed anybody in any particular direction. You haven't endorsed in this race, as far as I can tell. Are you inclined towards somebody? Is there somebody you're thinking you might be supporting?
That's so interesting you bring that up, Mark, because you said I haven't endorsed. Believe it or not, I want to make a confession. I endorsed Eric Swalwell, who I've known for about 15 years. I knew he was a player, but I thought tragically that after he married and what have you, that was all over. Well, it wasn't all over. We know that. So my endorsement is gone, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He's out of the race. Now, to answer your question, who do I see as a winner? It's a very tough race. I watched the debate as much as I could. By the way, it got cut off the last 30 minutes, which I didn't understand.
Yeah, well.
But nobody wanted to really speak out, with the exception of perhaps Mahan, who is very interesting. He's backed by Silicon Valley. I think he's done a very good job as mayor. Becerra certainly climbed the line after Swalwell got out. I watch all these ads by Steyer, and they're overwhelming. What has he spent now? Over 120, 150 million?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure he connects with people. Now, these ads are running against him are very, very interesting, aren't they?
Yeah.
On what he has previously invested in. And now he comes back with an ad saying, look, I learned a lot. I'm a new man. My wife and I want to give all our money away, et cetera, et cetera. He's very interesting. We've got some interesting candidates. I think that the young lady from Orange County is very good, but I'm not sure she's got the experience to run a state as big as California. I'd love to tell you I knew who was going to be our next governor. I don't think I know.
So you're like a lot of people, it's a wait and see. Somebody has to emerge, right? And somebody's going to.
It's so interesting because when you look at the numbers, until Swalwell dropped out, there was a possibility that we would have two Republicans, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's gone now, and we're going to have Hilton against a Democrat.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then we will have a Democratic governor, because I don't think Hilton could do it at all.
Yeah.
The blessing to the Democratic Party, by the way, was Trump endorsing Hilton,
Yeah.
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 clearly.
Yeah.
So it'll certainly be an interesting race. We're in trouble, I don't have to tell you. And Gavin really had nothing to do with the trouble. He did not start the fires. And the North Bay fire, which took a lot of the Northern California, created a lot of problems up there. And then going in down south to the Palisades and the other fire by Pasadena, which is enormous, that people just don't realize how big that is. I think that took a lot out of what's happened to us here in California,
Mm.
financially, physically, how we move now.
Mm.
There have been some disasters in California that haven't been looked at. That whole train situation over in the valley. In LA, if you go to LA, there are two whole streets tented off for homeless. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Downtown?
Yeah.
I mean, that's 60,000 on the street. Look up here, we've got real problems, very significant problems. I'm a very, very big fan of, not only a fan of, a supporter of Gavin. We'll probably talk about that in a moment.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was beyond his control. A lot of it started back, I hate to say this, under Jerry Brown, when PG&E and other utilities just ran wild with no safety protections built in. Do you follow what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
The PUC wasn't looking at fire problems when they should have been, because we had small problems going back over 40 years. And as we advanced electrical lines north of Napa, north of Santa Rosa, up in the Shasta area, you saw what happened.
Yeah.
The PUC didn't jump on it. So we've got major problems here in the state, and whoever the next governor is going to be faced with these problems. And Gavin has done as good a job as he can do, but it is an overwhelming problem with 40 million people.
Yeah.
And the streets that we have. I mean, I was asked to become a judge several times. Barbara Boxer called me once and said, "Joe, I'd like to nominate you to Bill Clinton." I said, "Barbara," I represented her at the time, "I would be a total embarrassment to you and to President Clinton if I was appointed." She was shocked. She said, "Why?" I said, "Because if I was a judge, I would rule from my heart and not from the law. I wouldn't follow the law." She said, "Joe, that's a wild statement. You're my lawyer, et cetera, et cetera." I said, "Well, that's the way I feel." And to be brutally candid with all of you, I feel very strongly that we have laws now that are protecting people, that we've gone so far. I remember when I was in Special Forces, what we had to do. I remember when I was in JAG, what we had to do. Yes, you follow the law, but there are times you have to understand that there are certain laws you just can't, or we're going to run wild. And that's what's happening on our streets. You've been up on Hyde Street in San Francisco recently?
Yeah.
It's you take your life in your hands if you walk down the street there. That's not to say our new mayor isn't doing a fabulous job trying to clean it up. But the fact that we allow guns, anyone to have a gun, pick up the paper every single day and look at the shootings. It's beyond comprehension. You have a gun in England and you're facing 4 years in jail.
Yeah.
We have another issue that's coming up here in California in November. It's a billionaire's tax. How do you feel about that tax?
Well, that's so interesting you mentioned that. I personally am in favor of it, but the fact of the matter is that we do know it's causing a lot of people to move out of state. And let me tell you that moving out of state nonsense. I don't want to go into names, but I do know of one chap that went up because of just taxes, went up and bought a house on the other side of Lake Tahoe.
Yeah.
He has to live there 162 days, I think is the number a year, to qualify as a Nevada resident. I've seen him 360 days in a restaurant in Palo Alto, if you know what I mean. But that's the new game, going over and buying property in Nevada. Now I see people, the big ones are moving to Florida. I'm in favor of the tax. You'll note that Gavin is not, many people are not that are running for office. Why? Because money is becoming so influential in our elections today, especially with these so-called, quote, nonprofits that are being formed everywhere with multimillionaires like Zuckerberg and others putting money into these nonprofits. And we know what they're used for, right?
Right. Yeah. Let's
We're
talk a
living
little
in
bit.
some wild times, my friends. Wild times.
Yeah.
And we got to have someone, we have to have people with the guts to stand up and say, we're going to get guns out of our society. We're going to get social media back on track where it isn't killing our kids. We got to have people with guts who are willing to stand up. And I heard that, I want to go back just a minute to that, whatever the hell you called it, the other night with our 6 members. And where were the guts? You know, everybody, Steyer kept talking about taking on Trump. On what issues? What do they want to really do? You know what I mean? Rather than take on Trump. Take on Trump on what? You can take him on everything, including the fact that he's a moron.
Yeah.
But where's
Well,
that going to get?
Well, and politically, that hasn't always worked anyway. I mean, everybody runs against the guy thinking, I can't believe I'm losing to him. You know, I wrote in a column not too long ago, I'm tired of hearing people keep saying they want to fight. I'd rather hear somebody say what they're going to do.
Thank you so much. Stop right there. That is the message that I heard the other night. I'm going to fight for this. I'm going to fight for that. Specifically, what is it you're going to do? Yeah.
You mentioned Gavin. I know you're very close to him. You've been almost like a father to him, a second father to him for many, many years. Tell us, give us your sense of him and his presidential aspirations.
Gavin has come a long way. I don't have to tell you, as you know, I represented his mother, Tessa, and Bill. His father was a dear friend of mine. I knew Gavin and Hillary, his sister, when they were 3, 4, and 5. That's when I really became close to the family. He has come a long way. We do know he has tripped and fall a couple of times, right?
Yeah.
He will tell you that. Go read his new book. I think he's got the guts. I think he's got the leadership. The real issue is who you surround yourself with, right? I would not be the lawyer I am without the fabulous people in my office, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I've got the ability to stand in front of a jury and let them know what they should do. But I couldn't get in front of that jury unless I had the fabulous lawyers I have that get me there. You understand, on the train? Now, Gavin, the key is to anyone that's running for president in 28 to surround themselves with people who have the guts, the integrity, and fortitude to really speak out, move forward, and find out what track the train is on. In other words, Gavin, going back to Gavin, I think he's come a long way. He's had some falls, he's gotten up, and he's moved forward. Let's hope he gets on that right track moving towards the White House, if it's still standing, by the way. What are we up to? About 400 million now on the putting back the East Wing?
Yeah. Yeah.
And did you see the other day that they at least the New York Times came out with a statement that they're using foreign steel, not U.S. steel?
Yeah.
It is hard to believe, is it not, based upon the words you're coming out of the man's mouth? So back to the presidential election, we've got some fabulous people up there. Watch Mark Kelly. We can go into a whole list of people. I'm working with a group of attorneys nationally out of Public Citizens. It used to be trial lawyers for public justice. I'm working with people around the country to see where we're really going in terms of this presidential race, which is going to be interesting. I am with Gavin 100% right now, and I'd love to see a fabulous vice president, but there are some other people to watch. Watch Mark Kelly, a tremendous, tremendous individual. There are some sleepers. I know you're going to ask me this question, Kamala Harris. I think everybody gets a shot one time. She's had her shot. I don't think she can come back, although she's certainly making a lot of noise and spending a lot of money. I think the real interesting thing is going to be who, if it is Gavin, who is in that second spot. And I'm going to tell you right up front, if it isn't a woman, I would be upset. Women are what, 51% of our country? And we need a good woman in there. Now, poor Kamala was left, what was it, 110 days to run?
Yeah. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
She did, I think, a decent job as a vice president. If I had my way, I would have had her down on the border, if you know what I mean by that, more often, doing what we could to stop gangs from coming in through Texas, San Diego, what have you. And Trump and his group picked up on that. And tragically, we now have what we call ICE people that are a disgrace. But going back to the presidential race, you've got a lot of sleepers in there. Pritzker's going to make a run for it. Watch Chris Murphy out of, where's he out of? Connecticut.
Yeah.
I think he's terrific. I think there are a lot of sleepers. What's her name? The woman governor of Michigan. Help me with that one.
Whitmer. Gretchen Whitmer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Watch Amy Klobuchar, although she's running for governor.
Oops.
Ooh.
Well,
That's not good.
Well, shucks. Well, we'll, Frank, I imagine behind the scenes right now, our producer, Frank Bravo, is frantically contacting Joe's office. But in the meantime, Bob, how you doing?
I'm doing just great. How are you doing?
Well, I'm so, I'm thrilled and delighted that we have a chance to have Joe on. He is a heavyweight.
Yeah.
And as you can see, he still has a passion for what he does. And he's one of those guys, he's a major player in politics. So when he starts talking about people to look at, it's because he's heard from those people directly. And they know when you come to California, Joe Kotch's one of the guys you need to check in with. It's fascinating to see that he still burns with a certain level of passion about what he's doing. There you are.
We got Joe back.
Yeah. Hey, Joe. Joe, can you hear us?
Quick,
Can
I
you hear us, Joe?
got lost.
There we go. Hello,
You've
driving voice
changed.
for Joe.
Okay.
It's
So now we lost them all together.
well, Frank, if you can reach out to his office, see if they can get him back.
I'm
Here we
back.
go.
Oh.
Hey, Joe.
There
Thank
we
you.
we
Hold
go.
on, hold
Yeah.
on. Can you see me now? Can you?
Yeah, we can see and hear you.
Yeah.
Thank
Oh.
you.
Hold on. We're just going to, no, I'm just going to try and get it up a little. Hold on one second. I apologize. Not
No,
so quick.
don't worry about it. We can edit this out, so don't worry about it.
Yeah. A couple of other people that keep an eye on, obviously, Andy Bashir. What is
Josh-
he? Kentucky.
Josh Shapiro.
Watch Roy Cooper. I've got a lot of lawyers telling me out of North Carolina that this guy Roy Cooper can sell ice cream to Eskimos. How about Kirsten Gillibrand from New York, a woman?
Yeah.
You don't hear that much about it. Can you see me okay?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can see you.
Oh, good. Good. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience with us.
I think there's got to be a woman on the ticket. I really feel strongly about that. A strong woman. And by the way, watch Cory Booker out of New Jersey. We talked about Andy Bashir. I told you that I'm getting a lot of calls about Roy Cooper. Support him. Ruben Gallegos, how do you pronounce his name?
Yeah,
Out of,
Gallegos.
There you go.
Arizona for
Yeah.
vice president. A very interesting guy because we've got a huge Hispanic population. We've talked about Amy Klobuchar.
Yeah.
Uh,
Josh Shapiro.
you know who else is interesting? Watch this guy, Wes Moore, governor of Maryland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's a sleeper for vice president.
All these names raise a really interesting angle on this, which is the conventional wisdom is the Democratic Party is in the weeds and is sort of lost. I always contended that had Joe Biden gotten out of the race a year earlier, we would have seen that the Democrats have a very, very deep bench of good people coming along, and that they've been overshadowed by the confusion and the disarray of Joe Biden's last couple of years. And what you're saying now sort of confirms that we just didn't have a chance. Had they been through the primary process that we normally would have gone through, they would have been battle tested. A lot of them would have been people who would have emerged as national figures.
Boy, I don't know how to repeat what you just said. You were right on. Who wrote that wonderful book? The guy you see him on MSNBC now, MS Now, wrote the book about exactly what happened. He promised. I love Joe Biden. He promised that he was going to be a one-term president, right?
Yeah.
And now comes the second year. And now the group surrounding him love that inside the White House power, right? And they said, no, he can do it. Well, we all knew he couldn't do it. If you knew Joe, he was getting old, he was getting tired, and he promised to be one term. You are right on the money. In the second year, right after the second year, had we had a quasi convention and let everybody step up and speak their piece, instead of putting poor Kamala, leaving her to the 110th day or whatever the hell it was, when finally, the word is Joe just said, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
But I wish I could remember the guy who wrote a little book. He was
Yeah.
criticized for doing it, but he was right on the money.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
the people surrounding Joe that loved that White House power, and they didn't want to give it up.
Yeah.
How foolish, how stupid, how arrogant, and look what it did to our country. It gave us a guy by the name of Trump.
Yeah.
You remember that sad, what was it, the Trump and Biden on the stage together?
Yeah. Biden just got lost.
Oh,
Yeah.
my God. Oh, my God. And the story is, Jake Capper, what's his name?
Yeah. Jake Pepper,
Yeah.
CNN.
He's the guy that wrote the book. And he's got some details in there given to him by some insiders that would just make you sick. And they're
Yeah.
all true about how he got surrounded by people that just wouldn't give up the power.
Yeah.
But you're right, Mark. Had we had people on track, and now I think we've got some people on track, and that's why we've been doing so well. Look at the governor's race in New Jersey, Virginia, 2 women who are phenomenal. Look what happened in Virginia, last Tuesday?
Yeah.
I think we're on track to do something. Isn't it sad that we have to break up states now the way we're breaking them up? But that was forced upon us when Trump, told the Yobob governor of Texas to go ahead with it, right?
Yeah.
And it was Texas that started the game of
You're talking about
cutting up
gerrymandering. Yeah.
Yeah.
gerrymandering.
Yeah.
And then Gavin smartly had to get into it with Prop 50.
Yep.
Had to do it.
Are you
I don't think
optimistic
we're done,
about?
by the way. I don't think we're done. I think we're going to see a couple of more red states get redder, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Are you optimistic about the midterms and Democrats taking back at least the House, if not possibly the Senate?
I'm glad you said that. I am so optimistic about the House. I'm on the phone once a day. That's what we're concentrating on. This group that I'm involved in is the House. But in our last 2 group phone calls, we're now talking about the Senate. I think we can take Maine. I think we can take North Carolina. I think there's a shot at Alaska. I mean, this young man in Texas, we've never taken Texas, but did you see what he did in the first, quarter in raising money?
Yeah.
And if the so-called AG wins the seat in the primary for the Senate, we got a shot at that in Texas, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So, boy, if we could I'm convinced we're going to take the House. One never knows, but I'm convinced of it.
Yeah.
But now there is talk about the Senate, and I'm so excited about it. I can't tell you.
Yeah. What? I've lost my train
Well,
of
okay.
thought.
Let me.
Okay.
What do
Go
you?
ahead.
You know, I know you're a strong advocate for the First Amendment. You know, we can dwell on all the things that Trump has done, but what is your sense of the state of the nation, the state of the First Amendment in particular? Because you see, you see lawsuits being filed, criminal charges were filed against the Southern Poverty Law Center the other day. I mean, he as someone who at one point seriously considered running for Attorney General, you must be appalled at what's happening to the Department of Justice.
It's beyond comprehension.
Yeah.
Beyond comprehension. We have them in some of our lawsuits. They come in after we sue a corporation. They used to come in. Now they don't come in at all. And the 1 or 2 we have them in, they're an embarrassment.
You mean as
Look what happened
co-plaintiffs?
yesterday. Look what happened yesterday when they finally dropped the investigation against the head of the
The Fed, yeah.
Fed,
Jerome Powell, yeah.
Jerome Powell. I mean, the arrogance of how that is being used as a total tool of the White House, right? A tool. It's a disgrace. And I'll tell you, these next elections, the midterms, and then the 28 elections are going to be where our democracy is going. It is brutal. My daughter lives in Switzerland, in Geneva, and she tells me, Dad, you ought to hear what people here in Europe are saying about a country where I grew up, a country that was so loved for the many, many past years since World War II. And now they look at us as an adverse nation, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
She's in Geneva, right in the middle of the financial world of Europe. And her husband is in finances. And he says to me how distraught all of Europe is. And more than Europe, they're afraid. They say all we're doing is making China the mountain it's going to become.
They're assuming that the Democrats win the House and even win the Senate. There are some that are arguing, for impeachment of Trump. There are some that want to expand the Supreme Court. with your background and everything, what do you think about the idea of expanding the Supreme Court?
I'm totally in favor of it. And let me tell you what I mean by that. I think there ought to be a Supreme Court for criminal justice and separate out civil justice. That's what they've done in England for over 400 years. They've had two separate courts, criminal courts and civil courts. Here we have one court that has to make all these decisions. I think it would be much better to have two separate courts. Now, in terms of expanding the court, that's come up. My good friend out of Massachusetts has a bill in, or did have a bill in, to expand the court to what, 12?
Yeah.
9 to 12.
Yeah.
Then you might end up with 6 and 6. I thought it should have been 11. Yes, I think the court should be expanded to give us more opportunity to put on minorities, women. We're a nation now. We are not a 100% white Caucasian nation. And we need a better blending of people going forward. So the answer is yes, I think we should not only expand, I think it should be divided into a criminal section, courts, and civil courts, as it is in England, and most countries have exactly that.
Joe, you're at an age well past retirement for mere mortals, which I wouldn't describe you as. What keeps you going? Because you and I talk often. Every time I say how you doing, you say you are working your ass off, and I know that's true.
I am.
What
10 hours
keeps
a day.
What keeps
What
you
keeps
going?
me going is the words of my mother. My mother was an actress. I was born in Chicago when she was doing a show there. We were back to New York 3 months later. I just grew up in a neighborhood. I was a young Catholic boy in a largely Jewish, believe it or not, neighborhood with the other group Italian. And I grew up with a sense of you got to always work with other people. You've got to understand that education is what life is all about. And you got to go after justice. So why am I breaking my ass practicing at my age, my young age of 62? I'm going 10 hours a day filing cases left and right. In the world of AI, I want to see that our children, my children and grandchildren, grow up in a world that's a true democracy. Yes, I could stop working tomorrow, but my theory is that I'm not going to, and I will only stop. The words out of my mouth will be when they put me in a hole, start throwing dirt in, and I will ask, why are you throwing the dirt in?
You mentioned the words of your mother. What were those?
Very gentle words, sometimes tough words. Get off your ass, get out there and do something.
I think that's a good note for us to.
I want to ask.
Oh,
I
go
want to
ahead.
ask one more question, and that is, you've clearly had this remarkable career that's gone on for decades. What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want people to say about Joe Kutchnet?
Good. I would like him to say that he inspired some young people. In my office here, I've got young lawyers to take on cases that they normally wouldn't take on, if you know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And I just want to have a legacy of where people will understand that the only way we keep a democracy around us, the country we have, is to keep pushing to help other people. You understand what I mean by those basic words of help other people? There are some people that just unfortunately are not born with what the two of you are born with. And it's our duty to make sure that they can live in a country with us. Without that, take a look at countries around the world where people have no voice, no control over what they do. And the legacy I want to leave is, please excuse this language, get off your ass, go out there and help people.
Joe Cochette, thank you so much for being with us. It's always a treat, and we're honored to have you come on our show. Thanks very much.
Thank you, my man. Love you.
All right, I love you too. Bye-bye. Bob, it's time for the bullpen.
Yep.
You have known Joe for, I can't tell you how many years.
Yeah.
It's a treat to know him because he is what he has always been, which is somebody who's, I first saw him in the courtroom trying a case and saw him cross-examining somebody and thought, thank God it's not me, because he can be so imposing and so present in the courtroom. But he has obviously still has a passion, really a genuine passion for the underdog. And it's really colored his whole career.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely true. And, we didn't get into, there were a lot of cases going back 40, 50 years that he was involved with, landmark cases. It is, I wonder if we're seeing, the loss of this generation, Joe's generation, whether we're going to see people rise to the level that he has coming in terms of the future.
That's an interesting question. Joe and I are friends, and
Yeah.
I've had a chance to meet quite a few of his partners, including the two named partners, Frank Petrie and Neil McCarthy, who incidentally is the son of the longtime Speaker of the State Assembly, Leo McCarthy, who was also Lieutenant Governor. Yeah. And they, they're not the same persona. Joe certainly brings that Brooklyn chip on the shoulder sort of attitude, but they certainly have the same hunger for righting wrongs. And it's kind of refreshing to see somebody who's sort of unabashedly about that. And I think quite a few people in his firm are like that. And so maybe that is his legacy. Maybe that will be his legacy. He certainly has everybody around him working just as hard as he is. Well, let's talk a little bit about the general political thing, situation. We saw the governor's race. I think you and I would probably agree. I was a little disappointed with the debate. First of all, I thought the questions they asked were not really on point about what's on people's minds. They tried to ask clever questions that would get distinctive answers, and I think they were hoping to get a headline out of that. It drives me crazy. I know there are a lot of people on the stage, but it makes me nuts when they say, the state budget, you have 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I always think of if these guys were running the Lincoln Douglas debate, I could just imagine, okay, Mr. Lincoln, slavery, you have 1 minute. Yeah. I mean, it makes no sense to me to do it that way. But I guess the disappointment is nobody really emerged as, okay, he's my guy now.
Yeah. It seemed like, and this happens with some debates, where there's so much of an effort to make it tight and efficient and move it forward and everything. And they did a good job of that, but I'm not sure anybody, I've read a lot of articles, came away with a real sense of where they are. There was no real interaction, hard interaction. There were some offhanded comments that they made about each other. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens here as they begin to sharpen their attacks on each other. It's tough. You've got at least 3 of the 4 Democratic candidates that are essentially tied. There's so many different polls, it's hard to say. Mahan has a lot of money, and if anybody kind of came out of the debate as being a little bit different, I think he did. But the last thing the Democrats want is to have these 4 at about 12% or 13% as the result. I expected that Hilton would take off amongst Republicans. I'm not sure that's happened as much as I thought. And I think if, thinking about MAGA Republicans, if you watched Hilton and Bianco, Bianco's more simple, straightforward, goes after the red meat. So I'm not sure how it's all going to play out. I guess it's exciting that we have a race. We don't know the outcome.
Yeah, that is actually refreshing.
Yeah.
The real answer, I think, in a political context would be for there to be 2 or 3 more debates between the Democrats, because they'll get better at this. I mean, one of the things that was evident is that they're not really ready yet, that they hadn't spent enough time facing each other and honing their attacks, honing their comments, I mean, Becerra is a good example. You know this better than I do, Bob. You don't just jump up to the new level and you're suddenly able at that level. You have to learn how to be a candidate at that level. You saw that with Kamala Harris. She was, in many ways, she wasn't as ready as she needed to be running for president. And so the more they can do this, the better. But, ballots drop in less than 2 weeks.
Yep.
And so it's time to get ready. If there was ever a time for people to wait to vote, this would be it. Because something as Swalwell so adequately demonstrated, you're better off waiting in this case because something could still happen that will change the whole nature of the race.
Yep.
Other than that, we've got gas
I've
prices.
said enough.
Other than that, we've got high gas prices. We've got a war that
Yeah.
it seems like nobody really wants, and a president who can't seem to find his way out of it. It's clear from what I read that he thought this would all be over in 2 weeks, kind of like what happened in Venezuela. He got a little overconfident because of what happened in Venezuela. And the Middle East is not South America. It's just a whole different environment. So that's going to take some time to play out. There is a hunger, I think, for people for something to happen, that they're tired of sort of the same status quo. They're tired of this, the constant negative stuff that comes out of the White House. And they're not crazy about Democrats who decide to play the same game. You're never going to be as good at it as Trump is anyway. So it's better for them to find their own voice. And that starts with these gubernatorial candidates, I think.
Yeah. I think that if you go back and listen to Trump, I used to listen to him occasionally on radio programs in New York in the 80s and 90s. He has a fixation about Iran. He has talked about it endlessly. The irony for him, this was going to be the time where people were going to get more money out of their taxes as a result of the big, beautiful bill. There'd be a new Fed chair that would presumably loosen up money and we'd have growth. But the war has managed to just push all that aside, which is really what people are looking for. And Trump, it reminds me in some ways of Jimmy Carter. He just got mired in a situation, and if Iran's good at anything, it's bogging things down. It's teasing this, it's teasing that, and he just can't figure a way out of this at this point.
Well, it's a lesson we should have learned in Vietnam, in Afghanistan, and in Iraq, which is, for all the might we have, it creates a level of opposition at those countries that it is self-sustaining. That they don't have to do much to prevent us from doing what we want to do.
Right.
And it's a stalemate, which stalemate is to their advantage every time because they can outlast us, and they don't have any reason not to. When they're a totalitarian society, they have such complete control over what they're doing that there's no political pressure on them to do things differently.
Yeah, I disagree. I think time, in terms of the war, time is on our side. I think that, we can cripple them economically, and they clearly don't want to have to deal with that situation. The problem is politically, it's not going to help Trump. It's going to hurt him the longer it goes. And for us to come out of this with a regime change or a much weaker Iran, it's going to take time. And I think he recognizes that. And I think, at this point, he's willing to kind of go with it, even though it politically is going to really harm the Republican Party.
The challenge for him is politically, I don't think he has time. And I think I think he understands that, which is why verbally he's kind of flailing around. Yeah. And one of the, if it lasts till November, he will be, by next year, if the Democrats control the House, he will probably be hampered in his ability to continue to pursue this. So I would imagine he wants it over sooner than that, but the long-term consequences of what is done to the economy and to the American attitude toward him, I don't think that changes anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And well, on that rare note of agreement, I'm Mark Simon.
I'm Bob Marks.
Thank you for being with us on the game, and thank you to Frank Bravo, our producer, and we'll see you next time.